Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. Thanks for watching the show. I am your host, Coach Paul Tripoli, along with a special guest today, Arnold Gamber. Arnold, thanks for being on the show today.
An honor and a pleasure, Paul. Anytime to spend time and visit with you.
Oh, man, it's been, I guess I met you in your UWF, but this show is sponsored by Sandy Sansing Chevrolet. They have 3 local locations in Foley, Milton, and Pensacola, so go visit Sandy Sansing. Arnold, boy, let's start from the beginning, baby. Talk about where you grew up and what high school you went to. Talk about your youth days, and did you play any sports when you were a kid?
Well, I actually played not very well through junior high, and then everybody grew, but I didn't. So my sophomore year, my mom had remarried, and we were still living in Louisiana. And our backdoor neighbor was assistant football coach and the head track coach at Denham Springs High School. And got to know him that summer, and then got to be a manager. And then from there, learning to, tape ankles and all, got exposed to athletic training. And then we moved to Atlanta the next year. And then I got involved at Stone Mountain High School, where I graduated from in 1982. But by then, I'd gone to a couple summer camps for athletic training and figured out this was something I kind of wanted to get into. And it was always good to be part of the program. And, I've always loved athletics and, the good things that came from it and being part of it. And it led to getting a scholarship to be a student athletic trainer at Valdosta State in South Georgia. Wow. And so, Mom, and at that point, my mom, she had gotten divorced. So we were, a single mother with 3 kids. And I was able to earn some scholarship to help put myself through school. And it was a means to an end on one level, but was thrown right into the fire. They had just started football in 1982 at Valdosta and got to be part of that growth and work with some great people. And, and you look back and you go, heck, that was 43 years ago now, and so, and it, got into the profession and just, like I said, I was very fortunate, had a great career, had a very great career.
Well, you got to love it early in high school. A lot of guys don't get into it that early, but you kind of knew what you wanted to do and really fell in love with that, being around that environment and helping injured guys and guys that were sick and so forth. So Valdosta is, talk about the head trainer there that helped you. Was there a mentor or guy that helped you get through certain spots?
Yes, there was. His name's Jim Madalino. He was about 4 years older than me. He got the head job, I think he was 23. Wow. He had been an assistant at Florida State under back, Bowden's early days. He had gone to undergrad at Michigan State, and he was there my first 3 years, and then he left and took an assistant job at the New York Giants. And currently now, Jim, he made a couple of job moves. He has been the director of sports medicine / head football trainer at University of Kentucky since I think about 1988. He's actually getting ready to retire this year. So as you well know, the athletic training community is really a small community, and you know about everybody, or you felt like you did at the time. It's grown and changed a lot in the last 20 years. Yeah. But you had your network of people, and as they taught me early on, it's not who you know or what you know, but it's who knows you. A lot like coaching,
Right, absolutely.
And that led down, the path, because when I finished there, I was a GA at UT Chattanooga for 1 year. Took a year. At that point, I wasn't making any money. I was, I think, 23 at the time, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with life and all that fun stuff. But through that whole course of time, I was still an intern with the Falcons in Atlanta and would work game day or whenever they needed an extra set of hands. And that kind of kept my fingers in athletic training. And then in January of '89, Georgia Tech had a position come open, and Jay Shoup was the head athletic trainer there, who had been an assistant for Jerry Ray, who was the head trainer for the Falcons. So going back, the small network. And then lo and behold, I got on there. I was at Georgia Tech for 5 years when Coach Ross was there. Your buddy George O'Leary was the DC. And, it 5 great years at Georgia Tech, won a national championship in 1990. That was the fun part. It's kind of funny, Paul, that after you work your tail off all year long, you finally sit there in January, you take a deep breath and go, okay, that makes it worthwhile.
Wow, a national championship, yeah, with George O'Leary on the sidelines. I'll never forget that year. You definitely, man. What a year it was, George. I remember George. You split that with, was it Colorado that year? Or?
Right. They won the I think AP. We won. No. Yeah, they won the AP. We won the.
You guys
UCI.
won the coaches poll, yeah. Because I remember O'Leary in Sports Illustrated a couple of weeks afterward. One of the reporters asked Coach O'Leary what he thought about, Colorado winning the media poll, the writers poll, and George said, "Well, if I put any stock in that poll, the writers would be authors."
Exactly. So
he put more stock in the coach's opinion than the writer's opinion.
Well, we had a great year, and it was a special team, and Bobby Ross was a very good man. I mean, and a heck of a football coach, and just and winning that at Georgia Tech is no small feat.
No.
You've got to take like 7 maths for the easy degree, and those maths don't use numbers. So it was,
Did you see a progress year after year towards that national championship year?
I think so. I got there in, January of '89.
Oh, okay.
He had been there 2 years. They were awful when he took over. I think they only won 2 games his first year, 3 games his second year.
Yeah.
And then '89, I think we went 6-5, something like that.
Yeah.
And but what I look back, and I didn't see it on the front end looking forward. It's more on the back end looking backwards.
Right.
Those kids, we had some talent, and those kids worked their tail off all off season, and it paid off that following season in 1990.
Talk about that staff. Talk about that staff, because O'Leary was the defensive coordinator, I think, or the D line. I know he's always a D line coach. I mean, Saban was always the DB coach.
He was the DC. Ralph Regan was the OC.
Oh yeah.
Pat Watson, who actually passed away when he was coaching at Georgia, was the O-line coach. He coached at Mississippi State and all over. Brian Baker was the defensive end coach. He coached many years in the league after Georgia Tech.
Wow.
Hang on.
Who was your secondary? Who was a secondary coach?
Chuck Prefer, who ended up coaching 20 some odd years with the Lions and all that.
Wow. Holy cow. A lot of that staff went to the NFL. Bobby and matter of fact, George followed Bobby Ross to the Chargers.
Right. And when George came back, Bill Lewis was the head coach then. He came back as DC. A lot of those guys stayed in the pros. I'm trying to think. Lance Thompson was Georgia's GA there, who had coached all over the SEC, linebacker, D-line coach. And then there was 2 or 3 other guys who ended up coaching, either long-time college coaching or pro coaching. So a heck of a staff,
Well, you talked to Arnold about the changes, because back when we were, in college, man, I mean, Jim Goosetree was ice in motion is the potion, and that's about all, that's about all it was. And it's come so far. Is it progressing every year? Every year there's a new technology or a new equipment or a new procedure. It's almost continuing education. Talk about the industry.
Well, it is. And, and I've kind of been out of it for 5 years now.
Right.
But it's a lot, but the nuts and bolts of it haven't changed. You've got to be able to relate to people. And a lot of the old treatments from 30, 40 years ago still are very effective. Now, there is, obviously science keeps evolving. You've got to be able to evaluate it. This is good. This doesn't change anything, because it's, it seems like every month somebody was, wanting a meeting to lay this fad, from copper bracelets to magnets to, honey, bee pollen. There's all this flash and mirrors out there. So you got to be able to evaluate what's coming down the pike, and is it effective in getting guys back on, getting them well, getting them back on the field.
Yeah.
And so, the probably biggest advancements, in my opinion, more than anything, were on the physician side. Went from, if you had a meniscus back in the 70s, you had big old train tracks on your knee, even for a small meniscal tear.
Right.
Now they do it in a scope. I mean, I had one guy got scoped on Sunday, played the next Saturday, so, the rehab part, it still comes down to hard work, fortitude, all the mental strength of the athlete, the desire, a lot of that has not changed.
Well, talk about your experiences. You really had 1989 was your first one we talked about, and then 10 years with Tommy Tuberville at Auburn. Then Texas. Then you went to Texas Tech with him before you even went to the Falcons. Before we'll talk about that, talk about your years at Auburn and how closely the strength and conditioning coaches work with the medical trainers, because they're trying to strengthen conditioning, and medical trainers are both in it for the same reason. Let's try to prevent injuries, and then when they do get injured, let's evaluate and rehab.
I was very, very fortunate in my time at Auburn. Our head strength coach was Kevin Yoxel. He had coached at Minnesota, TCU, UCLA. He was actually, Chiswick kept him on for a couple of years following when we got fired in 2009. And then, and then he ended up, I think, Rice and one other school after that. He's now retired from collegiate. I think that was a large part of our success. Is me and Kevin, we knew we each had the same goal. We wanted to end up in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked daily on plans for every kid or athlete. Maybe they're not kids. They're all 40-somethings now. But, and not say we didn't butt heads on something here and there, but, at the end of the day, we knew we wanted to be in the same place. We had the same goal.
Right.
And what a lot of people don't realize is, the coaches with recruiting and all that goes with it, the kids outside of practice time and meeting time really don't spend a lot of time with their position coaches.
Nope.
And me and Kevin were the two stable individuals in the program. And I think, not to be egotistic, but I really think Tommy leaned on us in different ways to be maybe the backbone of it, to set the structure and help maintain the culture, the consistency. And I think that led to a lot of this, was one piece of the puzzle in our success we had at Auburn.
Great stuff, Coach. Falcons, 94 to 97. I think my old high school teammate and part of the 4-wheel drive show I do on Wednesday nights here in Coach's Corner, Timmy Green, was there.
I was still
brilliant. He always had a book in his hand, right? He was always reading the book.
Oh yeah. He was he was a brain of mine. He raised the IQ bar in the locker room, and that's probably the best way, because I started in 1985 as an intern, and there's only been 2 times in my whole career where I've been probably fandazzled, to say. The first was my first summer camp in 1985. I'm a little 19, 20-year-old intern. There's Steve Barkowski. Now, he had been the quarterback for the Falcons since late 70s.
Yeah. And,
that was my first introduction of, and he was a very humble, great guy, and you have that little, feel. And the only other time I felt that way in 1994, my first year full-time with the Falcons, Shania Twain sang the national anthem. And I happened to be walking out on the sidelines when she came off, and that was probably a whole different type of fandazzle. But anyway, but for the most part, Paul, you've been around it, and it's not you take it for granted, but you realize everybody's the same. We all put our pants on the same way, whether you got $1 billion in your pocket or zero. And and you quickly can discern character in people and how they treat you.
Right.
I've always said, back when I was a little peon intern, with the Falcons, that's when the Smith family owned them. And Taylor and Rankin Jr. were the leadership, the sons of Rankin Sr. But, I always felt like I'm, even when I was just hauling coolers or just the very simple menial stuff, Taylor and both of them would come over and shake my hand, how was school going when I was still in college, just actually showed genuine interest in me, even though here I am a little peon.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's always stayed with me. Like I said, I always, what's the testament of a man, not how he treats the other CEO, but how he treats the janitor. I've always taken that approach to life. Everybody matters.
Yeah. Coach Bryant was big on that as well. It's not what you say, or it's what you do, but it's also the most important thing is how you made people feel. That's what they remember. It's not all the awards or all the wins or anything. It's how it is to be coached by you. How does it feel to be coached by you? Exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. Biggest challenge, something you really maybe maybe it was a firing, or maybe it was a mistake on your part. Some challenge that hurdle you had to overcome that was hefty and took a little persistence.
Really, it was I've been fired twice, and what's the old saying in coaching? If you ain't fired yet, just give it time. You will be fired.
Right.
When I got let go at Auburn, the funny thing is, assistant AD called me earlier that day. Now, because they kept me on for about about a month after they let Tommy and most of the staff go, and then I just got this call of blue. You're going to be in your office this afternoon. So. So I meet him at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm sitting at my desk. He's sitting on the couch, and he looks at me and says, "We forgot to tell you, but we got to let you go."
Oh my God!
That's an honest. I never thought I'd bust out laughing while getting fired. And that's a God honest. Where it happened.
Wow.
But the hardest part, I was probably 43, 44 at the time. What you don't realize, Paul, being in this business, is your identity, and this is not right, but you become part of your identity, but that's not who you are.
Right.
And that I struggle with that. And even though I played it off, I really did struggle with that. And it took me a little while, whether it's ego or whatever, but that's a job. And that parlays, though, to anybody working in any type. You've worked your tail off to get to this position.
Get fired. Any job you get fired.
And you take it personal. But my point being is, you're not Paul or Arnold, but you're the head trainer or the head coach or whatever you may call it, or whatever your position was. But you've taken that position as part of your identity. And one thing, and it probably till I got to about 50 before I realized that there's only one thing matters. That's the people that live in your house, your wife, your children, because as you well know, they fire you, they got a replacement in there the next day, and
absolutely.
But you get guilty of identifying yourself with not who you are, but what you are. And that's two separate entities.
Absolutely. Good point, Arnold. Who you are and what you do are two separate things. That's right.
And I know ball players go through it. You've been you have 20 years.
Yeah, when I got done, I played since I was 7 years old, since I can remember. You don't remember much before you're 7 years old. But I stopped playing at 27. I got cut right in the prime of my career, and 27. Right. I've known football since I can remember. That's all I really, my focus was on. And now it's taken away forever. What do you do? Who are you? What are you going to do now? It took me a while, to get over that, as it probably does with most people. Some of the greatest assistant coaches that you witnessed, and what characteristics that they have that made them elite?
Oh, I mean, I'm fortunate. I've worked with many
Great ones.
good people who are good coaches. And
Yeah.
I think the essence to that is there's a lot of people that can X and O. I mean, that's you can train a chimpanzee or you got a computer that can pick prevalence,
Right.
but it's the ones that make that human connection. And it
Yeah.
don't mean they're lovey-dovey all the time. I mean,
Right. Right.
sometimes you got to, in athletics, I think whether it's as a coach or in my position I'm asking a kid that just had the hell beat out of him, get back out there and play again. No, that doesn't make a lot of common sense, but it's the nature of the business. And,
Right.
is knowing and learning these kids and knowing but there's one kid you can chew his butt, that works. The next kid, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You've got to figure out a different way to reach that kid to motivate them.
Right.
And,
Right. They're different. Yeah, they're all different.
But that's the biggest commonality was, to me, the better ones or the more successful ones had that human touch. There's a lot of guys, and unfortunately I've worked with a few that, they're really just big POSs. I'm sorry. They're not good humans.
Right.
The way they treated the kids, the way they treated their families. And the
Yeah.
way I look at it, life's too short, Paul. You know what?
Yeah.
We're all gonna get that
Yep.
in, and it's how people. It's the legacy you live. But going back to what you stated earlier, is how people think. How did you make them feel?
Right.
That emotional.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. You've seen a lot of great football players. And I've interviewed hundreds of them over the years, and undoubtedly, most of them, when I give them talent or intangibles, all the really good ones, and usually on my show, I don't pick guys that are losers, but a lot of guys have won a lot that come on the show, and they tell me intangibles is more important than talent. Now, the higher you go, you've seen high school, college, and pro, and when it gets to the pros, you have to be, all those boxes have to be checked. Who are some of the players that maybe weren't as talented but checked all the boxes? I could name a bunch of them, but I want to hear your stories from and whether it be a Georgia Tech guy or a Texas Tech guy where you're at Texas Tech, or Auburn player that you noticed went above and beyond.
God, I mean, my brain's racing.
Yeah, so many of them.
Yeah. I mean, actually, one kid that stands out for me at Auburn, he was one of our early kids, played early in our time there, named Dexter Murphy, played at LaGrange High School, right up the road from Auburn. Came in, redshirted. His fourth year, he might have got 3 to 5 snaps a game. Backup D lineman. His senior year, which would have been the 2003 season, I believe it was, he was still a backup. Got 15, 18 play. Very limited athletic, but great kid. Showed up, never got in trouble, had great grades. But what makes me proud, I ran into him at a function about 2 years ago, and he's 42, 44 now. He's got a beautiful family. He got his degree. I mean, he's got a great job working in trucking and logistics.
Uh-huh.
But I met his dad because I went to a wedding he was at. I mean, I can't remember all the circumstances. His dad had been a brick mason his whole life. I mean, his hands were just like, just claw,
Yeah.
And Dexter, I remember, and he was a fairly quiet kid. But here's where college football served its purpose. Here's a kid that probably wouldn't have gone to college, limited ability and means.
Right.
Took advantage of that, worked his tail off, grew into a beautiful man, and now he's a productive citizen, raising a good family. I mean, that is what college football is about. It ain't about the guy winning the Heisman and all that.
Right.
I mean, that's fleeting. That's fleeting.
Absolutely.
It's the development of good people. And I've got a lot of, there's a lot of kids. Some played in the NFL, some, that were successful, but turned what they got from football into a lifelong example of what's good about this world.
Yeah, thousands. There's thousands of examples like that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to the Syracuse-Miami football game. I have a bunch of Syracuse buddies on the Wednesday night show. And on Wednesday night, one night, we brought in a role player much like Dexter.
Yeah.
That just like him. That didn't start, wasn't all, but man, what a beautiful person and what a beautiful teammate and father and husband and employee, Bernard Kings Jr. That he lives down in Orlando now, so we're going to go down and see him, and I'll go to the SU. Yeah, so that's great stories. All right, let's talk about what you're doing now. You're not grinding. Hey, we don't have to grind. We're old enough. We don't have to grind anymore.
I could tell you the last couple of years, there'll be a day in August. I think I'm going to go outside and do some work. And I open the back door and that heat hits you right in the face. I'm like, not today. I mean, twofold. And both of these, I kind of started when I was still at UWF. You know, my goal was to get to 60. I can start drawing my Alabama retirement, blah, blah. Well, they had other plans in mind, and they basically outsourced the whole sports medicine department there, and for younger, cheaper athletic trainers, and I wasn't in that equation. So fortunately, I have a sports tourism business, basically own 2 high school basketball tournaments now. We host them down in Gulf Breeze. We base them at the beach with Innisfree hotels, and that has grown that we have 66 schools coming in this year for the 2 events.
Awesome.
And it's kind of a lot of what I did for the schools, except now I get to make a little money off of it, you know,
instead of making money for them.
Yeah, versus a T-shirt and an old cold roast beef sandwich. You know, here, thank you for your 20-hour days. But no, that has grown well. We, you know, the nice thing, Paul, at that time of year, we have over a $2 million impact back into the local economy.
Yeah, right.
It's a way of giving back, and especially I got to, you know, the city of Gulf Breeze, Pensacola Sports, all these entities after Sally and COVID, those areas, the beach and Gulf Breeze were struggling very bad. You probably had friends that had businesses that lost them.
Right.
So this is just one little thing we were able to throw back to, you know, trickle down money and, you know, help that economy. And my other thing, which is very peculiar, because if you had told me 10 years ago I was doing this, I would have called you crazy, is I do beer cap art. I just finished the Shrimp Festival in Gulf Shores this past weekend. And it was an idle interest that turned into a hobby that is one of my full-time businesses.
Oh, awesome.
So
awesome. It's good for you, man.
I sit out there on Saturdays. I'm wearing flip-flops and shorts, selling a few pieces. Occasionally I'll have a beverage in my Yeti cup. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, I'm not standing on a football field worried about if an 18-year-old is going to do their assignment or not and get fired for that, you know. So I hate to say it, but I really don't think much about football when I'm doing shows and all. So it's been kind of nice, you know.
Oh man, what a great thing, man! What awesome! That's awesome. Good for you, man. I'm so proud of you. Happy for you. You got a great life, man, and you should think about starting a podcast. You could Athletic Trainer podcast.
It's debate. If I could just figure out the electronics, that's my challenge. I tried to get my daughter, who's a freshman at South Al this year, to handle some social media for me. I'm still working on Instagram. I got Facebook down, but Instagram is still a little challenge for me.
When's the tournaments? When's the basketball tournaments?
Our first one, the 18-team tournament, will be November 24th, 25th, Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving week at Gulf Breeze High School. We got schools from 7 different states coming in, boys and girls. And then the 8th year of our December tournament will be the 27th through the 30th of December. And we've got 15 states. We've got, 5 or 6 Ohio, meat and bread is Tennessee, Kentucky. Great. If you're a fan of prep basketball, you need to come see this. Because unfortunately in the Panhandle, basketball is kind of an afterthought.
Right.
There's a couple programs that do a really good job, but there's not a lot.
No state title teams. Yeah, no.
No. But we've got teams we've had, not that we try to make it a prestigious tournament, but we've had state champions that played in our tournament 3 months later win their state titles. And if you like just good old fashioned high school basketball, boys and girls, we'll have it going and all. Our website's pensacolahoops.com, and we'll have the schedules posted there and all that. And I'm blessed, my partner Chip Bowes, who is a sports entity in this town. from PJC to, working in the Scambia system as a coach at AD all these years. We feel like we have a great product that adds something to the local community.
PensacolaHoops.com. What a great domain name. That's brilliant. That's brilliant, you guys. Yeah, Chip's one of a kind, man. I think he's going on 40 some years of his Chip Bowes basketball camp every summer, June and July. And that's a treat for anybody, any youth that wants to play basketball. Wow. One last question. Who do you think would be a great guest to have on the show?
Once again, I have been blessed to encounter so many great people. I mean, a lot in athletics.
Yeah.
But the Lord blesses you at times. You meet random people that are just phenomenal, in their different phases of life. And I don't know. I'll have to think about that and email you a list.
Awesome. You do have a great sense. Yeah, you can help me out a little bit, Arnold.
But real quick, if we got time, one of the greatest stories I have is 21 years ago, me and the wife had gone to Eleuthera, one of the outer Bahamian islands. And it's kind of like Century surrounded by water, the best way I can describe it, because it's a larger island, but ain't nobody there. And all the beaches on the Caribbean side look like Corona commercials. So you get the picture. Yeah. So long and short, we've been hanging out, floating out, because at low tide, you can go way out there and it's a foot or two deep. I came back, was sitting under the tree, reading my book, and I heard a voice go, hello. And it sounded like James Earl Jones. And the only way into this beach was right where we were. And I didn't see a person. I didn't see another car, nothing. And I'm like, okay, maybe the wind echo. Real quick, then another one. And at this point, I kind of shut my book. I'm like, if he's got a machete, I'm just going to be happy to see a body before I die, type scenario. And it's this older gentleman. He walking out. All he's got is a backpack, getting ready to go for a swim. And we, exchange a few remarks, cordially. And then, with low tide, I said, well, this has had Moses at the Red Sea. No, that's what he said. And then I said, well, nobody knew he had a title chart. Well, this plays into it. Well, over the course of the next hour, my wife comes in, we eat our sandwiches, we're just hanging out. He comes back in and I offer him, he's got nothing with him. I said, would you care for a beer? No, water. Comes, sits down with us. Come to find out, it was Senior Monsignor Moss. He had come over from Nassau to consecrate a church, a new church on the Lutheran. Mm-hmm. We sat there for close to 4 hours talking. He had served in the Vatican. He turned down for health reasons to be the first native Caribbean cardinal for the Vatican in the Caribbean.
Wow.
I mean, I actually kept up with him for a few years, and then he passed away a little while ago, or a couple of years back. And the fast forward that story, I had a kid that parents were Bahamian. He was from Pembroke Pines down in South Florida or somewhere when I was still, I was still at Auburn. And he tore his knee up in camp. Well, it's a couple of weeks later. I think we're getting ready to play somebody. It's a Friday in the training room. And his parents and grandmother, because I asked the kid about Monsignor Moss, and the typical 18-year-old, I don't know who he is. You talk to my grandmother.
Right.
Well, they're there. And mom and dad had lived in Florida. They didn't have much accent, but grandma's accent, she still spent half time in Nassau in Florida. Pretty thick accent. And I was like, would you by chance know this gentleman? And you thought I was talking about Jesus Christ down there. He was that big of an influence in Nassau and the Bahamas.
Wow.
And we met randomly on this deserted beach because it was only the three of us in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
And I still say, I still draw some inspiration from that God puts people in your lives at the right time for the right purpose. And you don't, 99% of the time, Paul, you don't even know that.
You don't know it. You don't know what the purpose. You think it's a bad thing. You think it's a wrong thing, but it's just a lesson to be learned and make you better. Yeah,
and that's my kind of wild card story, but I will treasure that experience to the day I die.
Awesome. Man, thanks for coming on and sharing your story, Arnold. Man, I've known you for a while since you came to UWF, and of course we have the Auburn, Alabama connection, and maybe your Tigers will will turn it around. What do you think about your current Auburn Tigers?
Not a lot. I'll leave it at that. I'm wearing a crimson shirt for you, brother.
I know, bro. I know, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for all that you did for those kids, man. For all those players over the decades, man, that turned to you and you got them back on the field, or you were there for them in their time of pain, because you've seen a lot of pain, man, and being a medical trainer. And I want to thank you for being there for some of the kids. Maybe one story about because I know, I mean, it's better than I do, as well as I do. It's a violent game. There's a lot of bad injuries. My first roommate at Alabama almost got killed on the practice field. Internal injuries, Preston Gothard. But there is a lot of things. Do you have one story of maybe where God intervened, or a kid that came through and healed quicker than normal? Anything that comes to mind, or somebody?
I mean, Paul, there's a lot of instances where we had to board kids, or severe, injuries happen.
Neck injuries and
just neck injuries. I had a gunshot. I mean, what didn't happen on the field, obviously, but got shot. Ended up being his wife, but that's a different story. But I mean, the key was you always put the kid first.
Yeah,
you always going to do, whether it was a minor injury or a severe injury, you're always going to do right by the athlete.
Right.
And then the rest falls out. And I think, I mean, not that Tommy or some of the other coaches I worked for, and I was blessed. I mean, Boots Donnelly in Middle Tennessee, I worked for him his last 2 years, and he's a legend. And I learned, that was my first head job. If you didn't get cussed weekly, something was wrong, but from that, you learn how to handle kids. And I think one thing that allowed me the success I had in the business is, most of the time I went to talk to coach, my news was not popular. I wouldn't have lasted long as a Spartan, but but they always knew I was going to do what was right for the kid first, and then the program second. And there's a lot of stories out there about coaches firing trainers or putting pressure. I never felt that. The only pressure I had on me was, what can I do to get this kid back as fast as I can?
Good. You're blessed. Yeah, you're blessed, because a lot of us went back in the game when we shouldn't have gone back in the game, to be honest.
It's the concussion issue, which has kind of taken a back burner since the COVID days.
Right.
What we did in the 80s, is it right? No, I'll be the first one to admit we didn't know better.
Yeah, we didn't know better. There was not CTE back then. We didn't know about CTE.
No, and you got your bell rung. Shake it off. Get your ass back. Excuse my French. Get back in there.
Right.
And I look. There was a situation in the 90s. We had two Mike linebackers. Both of them had concussions. It was who was seeing the fewest amount of players had to play. Now today you would even. I mean, you'd have to, but that was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was right. It's just we didn't know better.
We didn't know better. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Arnold, for being on, man. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with me.
Well, thank you, Paul. Great show. You've been phenomenal since I've known you these last 10 or so years, and just be part of the little picture of what you're creating here. That's amazing.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great day, man. We'll see you soon. We'll see you at the tournament.
Yeah, come on out and check it out.
All right. Thanks, Arnold. Bye. Wow, Arnold Gamber, great guy. Great trainer, a lot of experience. Did a lot of good for all the football players. And we should have gotten into some of that. I think he did some other sports as well. But we'll have him back on. Thanks for watching. The show is brought to you by Sandy Sansing Chevrolet and all my great sponsors. Stay tuned for these messages. Without these sponsors, this just wouldn't be possible. Have a great sports weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. So long.
When it comes to buying your next car, truck, or SUV, you need a team that puts you first. Here at the Sandy Sansing dealerships, we're proud to serve Pensacola and the Gulf Coast with the best selection, trusted service, and deals that work for your family. Just like great coaches build great teams, Sandy Sansing builds lasting relationships with every customer who walks through our doors. Because when it comes to finding your next vehicle, there's only one name to remember: Sandy Sansing can.
That's you trying to fix the plumbing yourself to save a few bucks. Doing things yourself doesn't always end well. The same goes for insurance. That's why Auto Owners works with local independent agents who tailor coverage to meet your needs and offer discounts for life, home, car, and business insurance. Because sometimes you need a professional to get the job done right. That's simple human sense.
When it comes to buggies and golf carts, nobody does it like Buggy Works. Hi, I'm JP Wibbs. We've got the largest selection of golf carts on the Gulf Coast. We have a brand new 10,000 square foot state-of-the-art service center and showroom to keep you rolling. We're right here in the heart of Car City at 5831 Pensacola Boulevard. Open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturdays 9 to 3. Check us out at buggyworks.com. Buggy Works. Come by and see why we're the #1 Denago dealer in the nation.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.
When it comes to buying your next car, truck, or SUV, you need a team that puts you first. Here at the Sandy Sansing dealerships, we're proud to serve Pensacola and the Gulf Coast with the best selection, trusted service, and deals that work for your family. Just like great coaches build great teams, Sandy Sansing builds lasting relationships with every customer who walks through our doors. Because when it comes to finding your next vehicle, there's only one name to remember. Sandy Sansing can.
75 years of service and high tech today. It's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348. High tech is a term often applied to advanced services and products in today's marketplace. And today, glass is much more than the simple painted brittle, see-through stuff we hit baseballs through when we were kids. Glass is now a product with unique flexibility in both performance and application. And Pensacola Glass Company is growing right along. That's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348.
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you. At Hill Kelly Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola. Or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.